Good evening to one and all present in this session. This session is about to start. Let us wait for 5 more minutes for our participants to join. Good evening, everyone. We will start the session exactly by 5 p.m. Tanu, can you please stop sharing? I request the participants to mute yourself. Participant dear BB, please mute yourself. Dear participant BB Amina, can you mute yourself? Yes. Good evening to one and all present in this session. There are a few instructions before we start the session. I request everyone to mute their microphones and not to interrupt in between the session. Turn off your video for effective streaming. Post your queries in the chat box. All your queries will be addressed at the end of the session. The magic in new beginnings is truly the most powerful of them all. Good evening to one and all present in this online meeting. We from St. Francis. The magic in new beginnings is truly the most powerful of them all. Good evening to one and all present in this online meeting. We from St. Francis de Sales College feel happy and very privileged with this new beginning of the jointly organized guest lecture with our MOU partners, Government First Grade College, Vijayanagara. I feel privileged to get this opportunity to welcome you all to the 2 days guest lecture session. The session is an apt platform for all students and teachers to understand and analyze the in depth content of the text. So, reminder about the instructions. I request everyone to mute their microphones and not to interrupt in between the session. Turn off the video for effective streaming. Post your queries in the chat box. All your queries will be attended at the end of this session. Harvey said, "A day without prayer is a day without blessing, and a life without prayer is a life without power." So let us start the session with a prayer seeking the Almighty's blessing. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. We have with us Dr. Fahmeeda, Assistant Professor from Government First Grade College, Vijayanagara. She is passionate about educating youngsters and her hobby is reading books. She is the author of short stories and different articles in various platforms and also a translator of children's play from Kannada to English, which is yet to be published. We welcome you, ma'am, to the session.
Thank you.
Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for that brief introduction. I thank Archana ma'am, Madhura ma'am, and the principals of both our colleges for having agreed to this uh, faculty exchange, or what can we call it, as an online guest lecture series that we have put together under the memorandum of understanding between our two colleges. Thank you so much. I would like to also thank Bangalore University, Dr. R. Geeta, who is the chairperson now, and she entrusted us with this work of textbook committee, and it is because of that that all of us are here together on this platform. It started with the work for the textbook, and of course now it has continued to exchange programs and benefiting the student community at large. And I also thank Dr. Tamanna, because of whom we have come together under this BOS for Bangalore University. I begin my lecture. I would just like to check if the screen is being shared. Yes. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. Give me a moment, please. Okay. I don't know why this is happening. Right. Okay. So, what do you see there on the screen? I would like to ask the students. You could either put a message in the chat box or tell me in a word what is there in the hand of that in that image. What are the things that you see there?
Excuse me, ma'am, it's not in slideshow yet. The first screen, first slide.
No?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Tell me, what is it that you see there on the screen? Anybody?
Ma'am, there is Christianity over the world.
Yes. You see the sign of the cross, and what else?
It is a Christian symbol, Christian religion symbol.
Correct. That's right. What else do you see?
It is spread. Christianity is spread to all over the world.
Very good. What else is there? in the picture?
Ma'am, it looks like fighting against the religion.
It looks like fighting against the religion because of the arrow in the hand of it's a fist actually, and there is an arrow in that fist. Am I right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay.
That's right, right.
So, yes. So, this is the crux of the novel Things Fall Apart, in which the writer Chinua Achebe is putting across the idea of how their culture, their language, their religion, and their identity was taken away by the British. And the crux of it is seen in this picture. As we all know, a picture speaks 1,000 words. So that is why I chose this picture. So let us now look at the novel itself. As I said, Chinua Achebe has written the novel, and he is a Nigerian novelist who has chosen to write in English, mainly because he wanted to reach a larger audience. And in this novel, Things Fall Apart, it's actually one book of the trilogy, No Longer at Ease, the second book, and Arrow of God, the third book. And Chinua Achebe lived in the British occupied Nigeria, and he, as a youngster, was he studied in the University of Ibadan, and he was, even in his student days, very, very critical of European literature which depicted Africa. Then, after his graduation, he moved to Lagos, and from there, he worked in the Nigerian Broadcasting Service, and he wrote the novel Things Fall Apart in the year 1958. That is about the writer. I have just given a brief introduction because he went on to win the Man Booker International Prize in 2007, and until his death in 2009, he was the professor of African Studies at Brown University. Now, let us look at the novel itself, Things Fall Apart. The title itself is very, very apt, and it is taken from W.B. Yeats's poem, The Second Coming, where Yeats predicts how things will fall apart towards the end of his poem. This novel, it depicts the post-colonial life in the southeastern part of Nigeria and the invasion by the Europeans during the late 19th century. As a novel, Chinua Achebe has delineated the themes, the story of every African of that time through the archetypal hero Okonku. Okonku's thoughts, Okonku's journey, Okonku's fate is very much the fate of every African under British colonization. And therefore, this is a seminal work till date on the African colonization by the British. So he, Okonku, belongs to the Igbo community. And in the Igbo community, where the G is silent, even though it is written as IGBO, it is pronounced as Igbo. And Chinua Achebe has said about his novel, the white man is very clever. He came quietly and peaceably with his religion. We were amused at his foolishness and allowed him to stay. Now he has won our brothers, and our clan can no longer act like one. He has put a knife on the things that held us together, and we have fallen apart. This is Chinua Achebe himself talking about Things Fall Apart. So, who is Okonku, and how does Okonku's life and every African's life fall apart? Forms the novel Things Fall Apart. The novel is divided into three parts. The first describes the personal, the intimate details of the life of Okonkwo, his history, the customs of the Igbo society, and it also describes Okonkwo's father and Okonkwo's life as a family man. And in the second part, it describes Okonkwo's life in exile, which he goes on to Banta, a place that is of his mother, that is what you would call his grandmother's place on the maternal side. And the third section introduces the influence of European colonialism and Christian missionaries on Okonkwo, his family, and of course the wider Igbo community. This is a short introduction to the novel. We have to note here that Okonkwo is physically a very strong person. He is known for his wrestling skills, and he has put down, or rather, he has beaten a person called as the cat because of his wrestling skills. And his father, on the other side, is an opposite personality. He is very lazy. He does not believe in hard work. And in African society, Okonkwo's father, Unoka, is considered to be a weak man. A weak man here indicates that he has not taken any title, which is very much a part of the African society, where taking titles was considered to be a very important thing. And Unuka has failed in that. He has not got any titles for himself. But on the opposite, in contrast, is Okonkwo, who is not only strong, he is hardworking, and he makes every effort not to show any weakness in front of his wife, in front of his children, and in front of his community. And he begins very early on in life. As a youngster, he starts to earn, he works hard, and as we all know, agriculture was the main feature of African society at that time. So he works hard and he takes yams on debt from the seniors in Omofia, that is the fictional town in Nigeria, and then he starts sowing those yams and getting agricultural produce from his farm. He starts off in debt. His father has not left him anything. His father, in fact, has left him only his debts. His debts, which will be paid off by Okonkwo, have to be paid off by Okonkwo. And another feature that we note of Okonkwo is that he is very much obsessed with his masculinity, and he is not willing to sacrifice or compromise anything in this matter. He is known for his brusque nature, for his intolerant nature, and for the fact that he cannot tolerate any laziness or any sort of ill-managed affairs in his house or in his community. He is so intolerant and short-tempered with such people that he can even hit them. And he hits his wife constantly. Wife beating was a common fact for him. And he is very, of course, unkind to his neighbors and very intolerant of people who are generally lazy and very bad at management. But he has only one drive, and that drive is to be successful in society. He wants to be successful at all costs in the Igbo society. So the negatives of his father, Unoka, leads to the success of Okonkwo, Okonkwo's family life and Okonkwo's social life in the Igbo community. In the Igbo community, the number of wives a man has and the number of children a man has marks his success. And a man who feeds his children, his family, yams from one season, from one sowing season to the next sowing season is considered to be a rich and successful man. And Okonku is very, very successful in that because he has a barn full of yams. And slowly but surely, he rises to the position of a leader of his village, and he attains this position by the dint of his hard work and perseverance. So, this is the rise of Okonku, which is marked in part one of the novel. Again, in part one, there is a development which leads to the next part two, actually. That is, the clan of Umofia has a little point of discussion, or what you would call a point of argument, with another community, and as a result of which a boy called Kemefuna and one girl from that community is brought over to live in Umofia. And the girl goes to another household, whereas Kimefuna is left in the household of Okonku. As I told you, Okonku has three wives, and the eldest wife is given the responsibility of taking care of Kimefuna. And Kimefuna is a young boy. He is almost the age of Okonku's son, Noe, who is the eldest from the eldest wife. And Noe and Kimefuna are contemporaries. And they generally gradually form a bond of friendship. And the boy, again, as a matter of fate, it appears, is like his grandfather Onoka. He is lazy, whereas the boy Kimefuna is after the heart of Okonku because he is intelligent, he is smart, he is active, he is very quick at learning things, whereas Noe is has to be prodded and pulled and dragged into doing things. This irritates Okonku a lot, whereas he is very, very fond of Kimefuna because of his intelligence and skill and quickness. So, this is the plus point, or it also acts as a minus point for Okonku's fate, for Okonku's future. How is the question? The answer to this is that the fate of Kemefuna is finally decided by the oracle of Umofia, and the oracle decides that the boy has to be killed. Now, Kemefuna has lived in Okonku's household for a long period, for nearly 3 years, and he has developed a bond of friendship. Noe and Kemefuna are great friends, and Okonku himself is close to the relationship of close to being a father to Kemefuna. And Kemefuna himself, even though he is very, very upset, and he is very, very much in a very depressed state when he comes over from his house to live in Omofia, he is slowly he begins to adjust, and slowly he begins to actually love living in Omofia more than his own native land. And this, when the oracle says that the boy must be killed, it's actually a shock. It's actually a most unwanted thing. But Okonku, as I told you previously, does not want to appear weak and effeminate in front of anyone at all costs. And when the responsibility is given to kill the boy, a leader, a village elder of Umofia named Ezyudu, warns Okonku. He tells him, "Don't do this. It's murder. If you are going to attack and kill Kimefuna, it is murder. It's like you're killing your own son." But still, Okonku does not listen or pay heed to these words, and mainly to avoid appearing weak and feminine in front of the other villagers, he kills Kimefuna. He lands the striking, he lands the blow which kills Kimefuna. And the moment is really tragic. It's poignant. You have to read this. It's heartbreaking to find, to see, or to read about Kimufuna calling out father, and there is Okonku with his machete just landing the heavy blow that kills the boy. This is murder, and this is murder of an innocent being for the sake of some clan rules and regulations. And this is the traditional society of Umofia, which follows these rules. But Okonku could have stopped or could have not participated in this blatant murder. But he does it only because he wants to appear masculine. He wants to appear the man everywhere, in every part of his life. And it has its toll on Okonko himself. Okonko feels guilty and depressed, and he is not able to participate in normal life for a number of days. And he is actually hurt. He is so hurt that he is, by his own nature, he does not want to admit or show that feeling of regret and feeling of sadness to others. He is, in fact, bound and tied by his own nature of not being very expressive in his about his feelings to others. And as the days pass, his daughter from his third wife, Ezinna, she falls sick, and she is given treatment, and gradually time passes, and a few days later there is an accident by which Okunku's revolver actually goes off by itself, and Okonku ends up accidentally killing Eziudu's son. Now, this is again something which the community will decide what the punishment is for such an accident, even though Okonku did not actually desire to kill the village elder's son. As a result of this, he is exiled to Panta, that is Okonku's mother's household or mother's village. It is a side of Okonku which we see in the second part is very much one of dissatisfaction and confusion. How is that? Is what parts the is what forms the second part of the book. That is his life in exile. Uh, what happens in Banta is what does Okonku do in Banta? Yes, he does not have his own land. He does not have his own, things to invest and sort of prosper. It is a temporary period. He has to be there away for 7 years. And in this time, he feels very, very suffocated because there is no personal gain or glory. It is just life away from Umofia. He has to spend a period of 7 years and get back to Umofia and get back into the business of climbing up the social ladder and gaining titles. And he is waiting for the 7 year exile period to end as quickly as possible. And while he is away in his motherland in the period of exile, the religion of Christianity and the white man enters Umofia. When the white man comes to Umofia, the change gradually begins. And this change is so gradual, like what Chinua Achebe himself has said. He came quietly and peaceably with his religion. And what did the black people do? What did the people of Umofia do? They were amused at his foolishness and allowed him to stay. Now, what has happened? He has won our brothers. So, what does that mean? That means that the people of Umofia slowly were on the other side. They joined the white man in his culture and in his religion. And as a result, things fall apart. So he says, our clan can no longer act like one. This is what happens when he is away in his motherland. And the new government which forms it gradually starts taking from a toehold to a foothold, and the white people grow in power, and they come to a state where they form their own government, and the village is forced actually to take two places, to take two positions. One, they have to either appease the white man or resist the white man. And as we all know, resistance takes a lot of time, and resistance takes a lot of convincing and making the people understand why they have to resist. And this job takes a lot of time. In the meanwhile, it is Noe, Okonku's son, who is depressed and upset about Kimefuna's death and can't understand why his father has actually killed Kimefuna, who goes over to the white man's side and he joins the missionaries. And this we know, I think I mentioned it. Okonku is appears to be hard-hearted, and he hits his wife, he hits his children, and in one of these bursts of anger, he hits Noe so much that the boy decides to leave his home and his family, and he decides to live independently. Now, this is again a shock, a blow that Okonku is, you know, in the process of taking. It is quite unexpected, and he is upset and angry at the missionaries. He wants to win his son back. He does not know how. He has never expressed his feelings of love and affection. He has only shown his worst side, not only to his wives, but also to his children and the people at large. And he fails to understand how people can change their beliefs, how people can change their cultural system so soon. And while the missionaries slowly work to change people, Okonku is grappling with the changed atmosphere. And somehow he completes the 7 years of exile, and he is in communication with people in Omofia, and he sends message to Obrika, his close friend, to make preparations for him to come, him and his family to come back and settle in Umofia. How does he do that? He organizes money, and he tells Obrika to sell all of his produce, that is the yams that they have, and hire two men to build him two huts back in Omofia where he can come back and live with his family. Now, before leaving his motherland, he hosts a great party for them, a feast for them. And there it is that the change in the Omofian and the Nigerian world at large is noticed, where an elderly attendee who comes to the feast, he talks and he bemoans, he actually, it's a wail of how the current state of affairs has changed for not only for their tribe, and he is very, very skeptical about the future of the tribe. This, in summary, is part 2, and we now look at part 3. Part 3 is when Okonku falls apart, things fall apart, and the Nigerian society falls apart. So Okonku comes back to his village, and he is very much shocked to see the change in the Omofian society. And whatever the black man does is under the microscopic attention and observation of the white man. And the white man will frame rules, make rules on the spot to benefit the white man. And anything and everything that the black man does is a punishable offense. And as a result, the black majority is controlled by the white minority, and there is a series of things, there is a series of events which lead finally to Okonku committing suicide. It starts with one convert commits an evil act, that is, he unmasks an elder they have a ritual in Omofian society where a village elder puts on a mask on his face, and he sorts of gets into the ancestral spirit, and he tells the future, sort of he predicts the future. When this ritual is going on, one of the converts takes away his mask, and that person is a he is on the white group, and the village men are very unhappy and angry at this, and they retaliate by destroying the local Christian church. This is like an eye for an eye. And in response, the newly formed government, the district commissioner, he comes over and he takes Okonku and several other native leaders as prisoners, and he charges them a heavy fine of 200 bags of cowries. Now, this is not only a punishment, but it is also a insult to the people of Umofia, to the clan of the Umofian tribe. And the district commissioner's instructions are there in theory, in word, but it is not carried out in letter. They don't appreciate the spirit of that. And there are some skirmishes between the clan and the white man's people. And these skirmishes lead finally to for the people of Umofia to gather together and to think of a way of putting themselves into a union or something so that they can fight back to the white man. As usual, a heterogeneous group, will have some who are overtly zealous, some who are cowardly, and some who are very very brave and they want to take on the white man. But in this group, the heterogeneity is the problem. And what happens next is again what leads to Okonku committing suicide. Excuse me. When messengers of the white government, they try to stop the meeting that the village people of Umofia are holding in order to put a gang together to retaliate and resist the white man. And Okonku, as usual, is very short tempered and he beheads one of the white man's government. And in this motley, it's actually a motley group. The people in the group don't support Okonku, and Okonku realizes that this fight is not going to get them anything because it's not united. And this conflict goes on for such a long time that it is then that Okonku realizes that his local Umofian tradition and their thinking is changing. And the district commissioner comes, his name is Gregory Irwin. He comes to Okonku's house to take him to court. But Okonku commits the worst possible thing an Igbo man can do, and that is he commits suicide. Why does he do that? Because he does not want to be labeled a prisoner and be on trial by the white man. He would rather die in his own house at his own compound rather than be taken to jail by the white man and suffer. He does not want to be made an example of, and so he decides to commit suicide. And when the district commissioner comes, he is in for a shock. And among his own people also, in the Omofian people in the land of Nigeria, it is a great sin to commit suicide. But Okonku adopts this path because he is not able to understand the change and change along with the change. And at the end of the novel, it's actually very ironical when the district commissioner thinks of a title for his book. And I have put it there in red, The Pacification of the Primitive Tribes of the Lower Niger. Whereas it is the life of a hero which has fallen apart. And in totality, it is the lives of many heroes who have fallen apart. And this is the gist or the summary of the whole book, which is divided into three parts. Um, Now, I would like to look at the themes. Before we do that, can any one of the students, please tell me what do you think are the themes? Of course, I've put a slide there, but can anyone tell me? How do we analyze a novel?
There is a response in the chat box, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Participants, you're free to unmute yourself and give your answers.
Yeah, one person has said repression. Very good. Any other colonizations? Yes. Pride. Yes. Any other answers? Okay. So that is, yes, that is one of the themes. First, let us look at colonization itself. As we all know, the British went all over the world looking for business. India was one of its targets, and colonization in India, we have all read in our literature, Indian literature, how how the Indians were colonized, and we have our own interpretation of that. In Africa, what happened is depicted very well in the novel Things Fall Apart. Give me a moment, please. Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. I think you can see the screen. Religion is there. I was trying to get back to the previous slide. Okay, this is not working. So, what happens when the Britishers take over is that the Omofian society declines, there is colonial oppression, and the detrimental aspect, the impact of it is seen in the way the culture, the economy, the everything is wiped out because of the Britishers taking over the running of the Nigerian society. And the how does this work? It is through, here there is one Mr. Brown, and Mr. Brown takes over the whole running of the government, and it is this fact that is very much that is focused in critical analysis of the themes of the novel Things Fall Apart everywhere. Um, what happens to the indigenous people there? That is the question. They are slowly wiped out, their culture is wiped out, and there is a slow destruction of the culture and traditions. And the British men who traveled to Okonku's community, imposing their own religious teachings, education, and prison systems, laws, and customs until it becomes so bad, it becomes so terrible that the people of Nigeria cannot see their own Igbo culture in the community. And there is complete loss of identity, which is explained very well in his second novel, that is um, the second work, No Longer at Ease, and also the third work, Arrow of God. It's a trilogy, as I said. The second theme is one of family. Things Fall Apart places a large, a big picture is presented where the focus is on family and examines how the relationships work in Okonku's own family. Okonku grows up with a father who is commonly considered lazy and weak and who is not respected in the community. And as a youngster, Okonku had gone hungry, and it led to his desire to be a better father to his children than his own father was to him. This desire to be the opposite of his father helped Okonku to become successful, yes, but it also made him a very harsh and short tempered man who does not show his own feelings, who represses his own feelings. Yes, it led him to become highly successful and represent and respected in his community. And as a result of Okonku's childhood, he despises his father's softness and he is obsessed with being called manly. And this desire to be manly leads him to be overtly sensitive, insensitive, and with a he runs his household with a tight fist of iron kind of thing, and he has this attitude towards his wife and children, and therefore he is not actually able to form a close relationship with any one of his family members. And the next theme is one of religion, which some students have rightly pointed out. It depicts colonization and how the focus on religion and how it impacts the religion of the colonized. And Okonku, who grows up in the Igbo religion, focuses on ancestors, agriculture, and the whole scenario changes. And his daily life, which he wanted to lead as a Umofian, which is what others called him, even that is gone. And this religion now is one of Christianity, which is what is depicted in the first slide of my presentation today. And the missionaries slowly invade and take over and break down the Igbo religion, the Igbo community, through their religion, through the control of their religion. And the next theme is one of tradition. Okonku feels very strongly about the traditions in his community, particularly gender based traditions. Like a man without a title is called as a woman in that society. And a person who wants to take a title in Umofian society should spend money, host a feast, and then that person is given a title for the various acts of bravery or in the fighting or what the person has contributed to the Umofian society at large. This tradition, Okonku loves it because he is very active, he is very enthusiastic, and he wants to be the opposite of what his father was. So all that is taken away. And Chinua Achebe portrays the strict image of gender roles in this book. The women are strictly confined to the household and its responsibilities. They are no, and even the agriculture they do is that of growing womanly vegetables like cassava, whereas the men grow a manly crop, that is yam. And the okonku, as I said previously also, appears, rather he is obsessed with being considered manly. And he dominates his household a lot. And I have already said this. One day, in one incident, it so happens that one of his wives, it's a week of peace, and in this week of peace, no one is supposed to fight, say a harsh word, and generally be very calm and cool, because the next week they are all going to plant their seeds in the soil, in the earth. But in this particular incident, the one of the wives of Okonku goes away to another a friend's house in order to get a new hairstyle done on her hair. And even though it is lunchtime, it is her time, or it is her turn on that day to cook lunch for Okonku. She does not appear. And Okonku is so short tempered. He is so angry at this that as soon as she enters the house, he just showers her with his blows. This depicts the kind of control and domination that he has on the women folk in his household. And this tradition is in contrast to the modern British tradition, which does not encourage or which does not support hitting of the wives. And of course, the British have the reversal of the gender roles, where the British women were out of the house, and they would even take up posts or positions in the other than the home atmosphere. And this is something that Okonku is unable to understand. And the Okonku's community are repressed from following their own traditions. For example, take the tradition of marrying more than one woman. The British government says one man should have only one wife, and Okonku's community does not believe in this. For them, the tradition is the more number of wives a man has, the more successful he is. And Okonku is unable to understand this. And this also shows how the British community actually annihilates, or rather destructs, the whole of the native traditions of the Igbo community. So this is a change that Okonku is not able to understand and change along with the change, and so he commits suicide. And the next theme is that of language. As we all know, language plays an important role in our daily lives and in our society and in the way we think. And in the Igbo culture, language is celebrated. And the proverbs which Chinua Achebe has used in his novel are very much a part of the Igbo culture. And it shows the way language works in the Igbo society. In fact, there is one famous quote in which Chinua Achebe says that words are the palm oil with which the words, with which a conversation takes place in Igbo society. And this language is also taken away by the Britishers with the imposition of English. Uh, I would like to quote one particular proverb here. If I quote, if I hold her hand, she says, don't touch. If I hold her foot, she says, don't touch. But when I hold her waist, beads, she pretends not to know. This is the beauty of the Igbo tradition of using proverbs for their daily, everyday interaction. And this language is fairly complex, it is imaginative, and it holds imagery and connotations which the Western culture and which the white man does not appreciate. rather, he ignores it. And this language also poses a barrier when the missionaries come to their community. But Achebe has used English to not only communicate to the wider audience, but also he has made a very uh, mm, imaginative use of English in order to put across the ideas and concepts of the Igbo community. So, this is the theme. These are the themes that I could think of. So, if there are any questions,
The forum is now open for question and answers. Dear participants, you can ask your questions.
either in the chat box or orally, you can unmute yourselves and ask
Uh,
questions.
Fahmeeda, that was a nice presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Uh, I just have something to add. I think this is predominantly English speaking crowd, I guess.
Hmm.
I have a suggestion. I mean, all the people here listening to the talk. You might have seen this movie Black Panther. If you have seen that movie Black Panther, probably you'll get an idea, a little idea about this Igbo culture. Okay,
Okay.
what happens when they have to make a new king? The way the panel sits around 5 or 6 of them, or maybe 10 of them, they sit, and we also have women in the team. And so this tells that there was, I mean, equality in gender. That's one thing I wanted to tell. And also the culture, what Fahmeeda was telling. See, because of the colonization, what happens? The culture of the Igbo was looked down upon by the British. Say, for instance, Fahmeeda was telling that a single wife was considered to be better than having many wives. But then, if we understand the local culture, he is manly enough to maintain 9 wives, because they've given an example in that novel about one person having 9 wives, and he also earns a title. And then we also have this tribal wars. So tribal wars, what happens? There is so much of bloodshed. So this is too much of masculinity going and killing and slaughtering people. And Okonko, at a very young age, he decapitates somebody and then he gets the head. He gets the head, and then he'll have palm wine in it. Okay, that is so gory, Bhayankara, when you cut the head of somebody and clean it, and then you drink palm wine in it. And then we also have so many other things like the elder son carrying the stool for the father, and each time they meet each other, they break the kola nut, and then they pray for the health of the community and also the family. And then they had such a rich culture which was reduced to universal rules. Okay, there were just a second. There were universal rules. There weren't like malleable rules which the Igbo society had. In the Igbo society, the rules and regulations, as Famita was telling, were malleable. Malleable in the sense they could change. Say, for example, she was talking about the young boy being killed by Okonko, and that is considered as a feminine ochu, feminine crime. So for feminine crime, the punishment is different from the masculine crime. So masculine crime is where you do it intentionally, and feminine crime is do it without your knowledge, without any intention. Unknowingly, he kills somebody and then he's sent on an exile. And we also need to understand, learn a little about the evil forest. The evil forest is one such place where anybody who has a disease or who dies unnaturally, they are just thrown into the evil forest and they're not buried, because they think that it is you are defiling the mother earth. they consider Mother Earth to be a greater goddess, and then they do not want to defile Mother Earth by putting some kind of a disease inside her. So they throw that to the evil forest, and they also have this superstition about twins and triplets and quadruplets, and even the newborn babies are thrown into the evil forest. So what happens? Looking at all these, and also the sacrifice of Ikemafuna. Ikemafuna becomes so much like Okonko's own son, and so when they are walking towards the sacrificial location, Ikemafuna comes back and runs to the father and tells, "Father, they're killing me." That is when, for a second, Okonko stops, and immediately the fear which he has all his life, he has posted one fear that he should not be like his father, Unoka. He doesn't want to be like Unoka, and he literally doesn't want to follow anything Unoka does. So that feminine feeling for a moment which overpowers Okonko, he suppresses that and he kills Ikemafuna. And Inoue knows all these. Inoue knows all these, and he feels that Igbo culture is not very good, and then he moves on to the Christianity, where he finds so much of solace. But then what we have to look at here is how the Britishers they made everything uniform. As I just started telling that their culture is entirely different from the British culture, and also that it's like a panchayati where the elders of 9 villages come and they sit, and the way they say the body of not a Congo, okay, somebody, the body of Ezeudo, I salute you, and that is the way they address each other. It's such a beautiful novella that I think anybody should read because it expresses so much about post-colonialism, colonialism and also post-colonialism. That's what I and so much more. The marriage and then the funeral, everything. And there's also this incident about the Ogbanje child. Ezima, Ekwefi's daughter, she is an Ogbanje child. That one incident tells about how Okompo has that heart. Which really has emotions, but then he wants to show that he is not. And then all those lines that Uchendu, Okonko's mother's brother, the way he talks, I think it's one of the best. I think we all should read it, if not for the exams, even just like that. It's a beautiful thing. Sorry, I took away so much of time. This is one novella which is very close to my heart, so I had to interrupt. Sorry, Fahmeeda. Sorry, Archana. Sorry, Madhu. Okay.
No, it's okay. You have added to the talk. Thank you for all your inputs. I see one
Thanks.
hand raised. Can this person ask me the question now? Okay. Okay. Any others? Any of the girls? I see so many girls here.
Participants, you're free to ask questions. Any questions?
Excuse me for that. It's not a question. It's just to add on to what Hema ma'am had said. This is one novel that everybody should read to understand the culture there and the way of life of an African tribe. What people assume as a sacrifice or a what to say, as a conservative practice is not so for them. But when a colonizer looks at it, it looks like very crude and all that. But it is part of their tradition, the rituals there in the novel. It is all something that we all should read, understand. And as ma'am said, it is also a novel that is very close to my heart. So we request all the participants here to definitely read the novel page by page, because it has so much to give us, and it also is a kind of document on how colonization, the imperialistic conquests and all that had huge impact on the society out there. So just an observation, and thank you for both of you to have enlightened us on this particular wonderful novel. Thank you, Fahmeeda ma'am, and thank you, Hema ma'am. Yes, ma'am, over to you, Shivkami ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, there is one participant who has raised the hand. Ruhi. Ruhi, you can ask question.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, I can ask. Can I ask some questions?
Yes, yes, sure. Go ahead.
Ma'am, what is the main theme in this lesson, ma'am?
In this novel,
Sorry, novel, ma'am.
the novel's main theme through the character Okonkwo is the whole of the African, what can I, how do you put it in one? It's what happened to Africa after the Britishers went there.
Okay.
And how did those people deal with that change?
Okay.
That's it. If you want to put it in it that way, yes, that is one sentence that I can say.
Okay. Ma'am, in that period, the civilization was very cruel, no?
Yes, if you look at it from the universal standards, like how Hema ma'am pointed out, yes, it appears cruel, but for them it worked. It was their way of living. They had come to
Okay, I
some
got it.
understanding. They had their own way of understanding those rituals, those traditions, and they had their own analysis for it, and they were happy with that solution, with those ways of living. But the British came and said, not this, do it this way. Right?
The British came with their court, they had their school, and they also had the church in the evil forest. So they brought their culture and they imposed it on the Igbo.
So, who is an intruder? The Britishers are intruders. They are trying, they have come all the way from the other end of the world, and they're saying, uh, stop this, follow this. Who are they to come and tell the Africans to stop something or adopt something? And why should they adopt it? This is the question that Chinua Achebe is raising.
Yes, there is one more question from Rohini.
Yes, yes, Rohini.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Santosh. As I know, in these things fall apart, what we can see in this, it's a tragic downfall of the Okonko, as we all know. What I think, there is no the humanity in the each community or a support. Uh, what we are present, we also facing in these societies, we always end with the downfalls or the tragic as the Okanko. What you say on this, ma'am?
Yes, basically, it's resisting change. There are two issues here, one of losing identity, and two of taking on or adapting to the change. If you look at it closely, Okonko is not really a cruel man, but his whole life is dominated by fear. Fear of what? fear of failure and of appearing weak in front of others.
Yes, ma'am.
It is he has the fear of not appearing weak, and he does not want to be a failure in front of others. He is not scared of the gods in that tradition, in that society. You have to be scared of the gods, you have to fear the forest, you have to fear the forces of nature. All that is there, but Okonko is above all these things. His fear is more inward looking, and this fear of finally not appearing a failure, sorry, not appearing weak and not becoming a failure in front of others' eyes is what is the primordial fear of Okonku. And this fear is great. It's not only external, it's inside. And this is a challenge that, yes, every man faces at one or the other level, even in today's society.
This novel is basically teach the day-to-day lives what we are facing at present, ma'am. It will apply for each and every one who are living in the society. And however, he is so strong and brave. He looks so huge and everything. Still, he is also a human being, and that is what the showing you the whatever the strength he may have, but the community or the society is there is no support. We get end with a lot of fall down or tragedies.
Hmm. You're right, Santosh.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
You can ask the question.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just asking one question that what made him the fear to get this suicide, ma'am, at the last moment he did because of that fear, ma'am,
Yes,
of
yes. The
becoming.
fear over here now for Okonku is that he killed one of the white man. It's not the when he kills the white man, what happens? He will be now taken away by the British government. The British government is going to make an example out of Okonku, put him on a, shoot him or hang him publicly or something like that. And that is going to be a lesson to the others that he should not, the average African Nigerian person, should not rebel against the British. That is one part, one side. The other side of the coin is Okonku is too great a personality. He is a hero in Omofian society, and he cannot bear the idea of him being taken a prisoner. So, how does he resolve that issue? He will not be under anyone's control. He is going to take control of his end also, and so he commits suicide. So, this is his greatest fear:
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
weakness and failure.
And also he realizes that sorry, and also he realizes that he stands alone in this fight. When he starts agriculture, when the rains fail him, the rains are well in advance, he loses the crop, so he stands alone as a failure. But that one was okay for him. He feels that he has the strength, enough strength to restart. But now what happens? Now what happens? He cannot he cannot trust the Igbo people anymore. He feels that nobody is going to support him. He feels that he is going to be all alone. And so what happens when there is no hope at all? He takes that extreme step. I felt. And then he always had this hubris that he was the greatest warrior. And now, though he killed somebody, nobody supported him, nobody came along. So that also could be the reason.
So actually, even though Okonko's greatest passion is to be not be like his father, he inadvertently he hates everything that his father loves. Inevitably, in this circumstance, there is no path left open for Okonku. Okonku is short tempered by nature. Okonku is even sometimes very impulsive in some circumstances. He cannot think, he does not have the patience to wait, to discuss, to go through the general routine of arriving at a compromise, and the situation is not willing letting him to do that. So all these things compound together, and he takes the extreme step of suicide. It's a tragedy because he's such a great hero. He's achieved so much by the dint of his perseverance and by the dint of his hard work. And Igbo society is one where they, even though they sort of admire and appreciate their ancestors and their ancestors' work, they actually revere the hardworking and the persevering person. And Okonkwo has achieved all that. When he has done all that and he's reached a certain place, a status, and then suddenly he turns the white government, the white man has made his achievements look like dust, has made his achievements nothing of value. And this is something that Okonkwo is not able to digest because he feels that now onwards there is no one to support, as Hema ma'am said, and now onwards he cannot live in this changing society. And as I said, he does not want to be under anyone's control. So he takes this extreme step.
Yes, I think Ruhi has one more question. Yes, Ruhi, you can come up with your question. Ruhi, you have raised your hand.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so can we conclude the session? Any
Are there any
questions?
more questions?
Okay.
Okay.
The roots of all goodness lie in the soil of appreciation for goodness. On this note, I conclude the session by thanking Dr. Fahmeeda for her insightful explanation of the work Things Fall Apart and for patiently answering all our questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank Professor Hema and Dr. Madramoli for the voluntary additional information added to the work. Thank you, teachers. I would also like to thank the management for supporting the session and making it a success. We also look forward for more sessions in the future. I request all the participants with us to join for tomorrow's session at the same time. The link to the feedback form is shared in the chat box. I request everyone to fill the form. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Is the link there now?
Yes, ma'am. It will be posted in the chat box. Yes, ma'am. It is posted.
Okay.
Participants, please fill the feedback form. The session will be open for a while. You can fill the feedback form using the link in the chat box.
What is it?
Thank you.
Let me pour it. No. Empty. Small piece. No, I'll just pour it like my hands are sweating. I'll put it on your finger. No, just I would like to add one word of thanks to all the students who asked questions. If there are any more questions, and you go back and read the novel today, tomorrow also I will be there in the session listening to Dr. Madhura on Larin Sahib. So, any questions you can all ask tomorrow also. Thank you.
I'm done with the feedback, ma'am.
Yes, Toshiba, you can leave. Once you have finished the feedback form, you can
Okay,
leave.
ma'am.
The session will be open for a while. Those who wants to fill can leave, fill and then leave the forum. Thank you, one and all.